But some stories are refreshing every time that they're told. But this one's more important because this is not only the story of India's biggest jewelry brand, but it's the story of India's growth itself and the jewelry brand which was witness to that. I'm talking about the Tanishq story and written by no one else than the man who was at the helm and has been watching it from the closest quarters. We have the MD of Titan, CK Venkatraman, joining in to tell us about the Tanishq story and his life, which was intertwined with that. Always a pleasure speaking with you, Venkat. The Tanishq story. If I had to look back, you've been in Titan for what, over 35, almost 35 years now. If you had to sum it up in 2 or 3 key moments, what would they be?
I think once when I nearly left the company in 2000 and Mr. Desai threw me out of the room and said, "How dare you leave family?" The second one was when I sent a message to my boss saying I want that job, which was the head of the Tanishq job in 2004. And 3 weeks later, they thought it fit to give it to me. And of course, the third one was when Bhaskar turned to me in 2017 or 18 sometime and said, going to become MD of Titan.
You'll be surprised that these are the three very moments that I thought that, I'd like you to speak about a little more as well. The first one, 1990 is when you joined. Around 2000, you got an offer from Levi's.
Yes.
And as a mark of respect, you still wear Levi's jeans daily. But what exactly happened out there?
I think I was bored. I mean, that's all I can remember. And I decided to do something else. So I resigned. And my boss and his boss, they tried to offer all kinds of rational reasons to stay back. And my mind was made up. And then Mr. Desai got to know. He called in and threw this googly at me saying, "How dare you leave family?" Threw me out of the room and said, "Go to them and say you're not joining them," which I did. And 2 days later, I met him and said, "I'm back." And that's how I stayed back 34 years.
Through this story, I'd like you to, talk a little about the charisma of Mr. Desai itself. I mean, we've just heard about him, we've read about him, but you're the one who's worked closely with him. Tell me a little about how he was.
He was, such a person who was who could connect with young people. And I was 30 when I joined Titan, and he must have been, late 40s or something like that. So he made Titan a young people's company way back when there was no such thing as Gen Z, the term. So his ability to connect with young people, his absolute sense of humor, and he was the man who put design, into this country. I would say certainly in products that we wear, and way back in the mid 80s. And he was such a humanitarian. He, laid the foundations of Titan's human thinking again in 86, 87.
The first big wave of growth for Titan obviously came in from wristwear, watches, and Mr. Desai could be credited for the foundation of the company, as it were. But thereafter, the jewelry, the Tanishq story, who would you give the credit to on Tanishq in the earlier days, and thereafter how it shaped up? What are your memories?
Certainly to Mr. Desai for imagining the possibility that India could have a corporate brand in the jewelry industry, because I think it would not be possible for mere mortals like me to imagine a state like that, but he did that. And of course, he created this brand in 1996. Even though it struggled for the next few years, I would credit Jacob Kurian, who happened to be one of my favorite bosses in the past. He and his team who came and took Tanishq out of the woods starting 2000 and left it in a great place. By the time I joined Tanishq in 2005, it was on a momentum, and I just had to make sure that I didn't mess up.
So, which is why I wanted to know, why is it that you decided to write about the Tanishq story? Everyone knows about it. It's not yet been put to paper from start to end, but at the same time, there has been a lot of literature on Titan already.
Actually, in a way, the prehistory of Tanishq, even I found out little bits of the detail when I started writing. So I think overall, there are many parts in the book which many people wouldn't know.
What was the biggest discovery for you while writing this book?
Like the entire change from an international focus for which the factory was created to how it didn't do well internationally, and the compulsion to realize some money out of the investment, and therefore moving to focus on India and the struggle in India and the kind of incidents in those few years, all those were sort of superficially known to me. But when I spoke to the protagonists of that period, when all that came alive, going back to your question, I actually had I thought of writing the book. I wanted to write some other book on stress in the corporate world and how you can actually deal with it and all that. I was in touch with Chiki Sarkar, who is the founder of Juggernaut and publisher. She told me you should write a book through which you become famous first and then you write that book. Then I said, but how do I become famous without writing my first book? She said, you should write about a famous story. I said, which story? She said, the Tanishq story. So it was as simple as that.
You know, one of my favorite stories about the Tanishq story is the way the name came about. Tanishq. I just want you to give me a paragraph on that.
Yeah, so, Mr. Desai was behind search for the name. And there was a colleague of mine at that time, Meera, and she was tasked with finding options. And she had circled one name from a book, and that word was Nishka, which I forget which language, but it meant throat ornament or necklace or something like that. So Mr. Desai was playing around with it. He cut out the K-A and put a Q, so it became a Nishk, and it had a more exotic feel to it. And then in a flash of inspiration, he added T-A in front of Nishk, and it became Tanishq, and T-A could be Tamil Nadu, could be Tata, but there is Tanishq.
And it's such a beautiful ode back to society that the word that you guys created, which wasn't an existing word, is now a common name among a lot of people as well. People have named their children Tanishq.
So, I've met some myself, both boys and girls, who are named Tanishq. Yes.
That's incredible. Let's talk about the second moment. I think that came in 2004, where there was an SMS that changed your life, I think early December.
Oh, yes. I mean, you've got it right. Yeah, so another friend and ex-colleague, Harish Bhatt, was the head of Tanishq for 2 years after Jacob Kurian left. And Harish moved in December of 2004 on a group transfer. So I came to know about it through an SMS from my boss. And I immediately replied saying, I want Harish's job. And after some discussions, 3 weeks later, I got Harish's job. And it was the best thing that happened to me, without doubt.
Tell me a little about Bhaskar, your experience with him. I mean, he's been around, the big legendary Bhaskar Bhatt. Your experience with him leading up to the moment when he looked at you and said, you're next.
What can I say? It's almost impossible to capture the impact he has had on all of us and on me as well. I've worked with him for a good part of the 30 plus years that I've been there. I think at its core, his humanity is the single biggest quality, and his ability to see only the best in each one of us, and his total simplicity. And I think he has put money in its place and not let money rule him. So these three things have made him the legend that he is.
Turned a full circle in Titan for you as well. I mean, you joined when you were 30, like you pointed out. Now you're nearing 65. When you joined when you were 30, you had the hand of Xerxes Desai on you. Now you have your hand on a lot of 30-year-olds in Titan. What would your message to them be with the life that you've lived in Titan?
I think you should take efforts to fall in love with what you do instead of hankering after what you would love to do. I think, in a way, do what you love versus love what you do. I think you should love what you do. And I think through that, all the energies you have can be focused in actually maximizing your potential, and therefore the growth will come to you.
When we look at leaders in companies like yours, there are two kinds. Some who say that, okay, this is the last job that I have, so I need to do it extremely well. Some say that this is the first opportunity that I have to leave a legacy for the company of the future. What do you think your legacy at Titan should be for the next 10 to 15 years? What is it that you believe that you have done or put in place that should take Titan for the next 10, 15 years?
I don't know whether I have necessarily done that, but what I would certainly love it is, we believe so much in stakeholder capitalism. we believe that if all the stakeholders of a company are dealt with in a very fair manner, they end up actually maximizing shareholder value. And I believe that in the COVID period, what we did for the stakeholders resulted in the shareholder value really growing. And because the stakeholders took charge, as they've always done, but particularly in this period. And I think I would love to be remembered, if at all, as a person who expanded the role of stakeholders in this entire creation of prosperity.
You know, you say it in a very plain prose manner, you expanded the role of stakeholders and all of that and stuff. What I really enjoyed was some of the notes that you peppered through your experiences that you had with a lot of vendors, stakeholders as well. One particular that stands out is one in Chhattisgarh where you went and had a lot of mirchi pickle, Marwadi pickle is what you liked, huh?
Yeah.
Tell me a little about that.
I love Marwadi food. It's my second most favorite cuisine after my own, Tamil food. And I was in Chhattisgarh and I met the couple for the first time. So Abhishek Garg and his wife Suruchi. And when I went to their home, I came to know that they're Marwadis. And then I said, wow, I just love Marwadi food and all that. And then they served this hari mirch ka achar and adrak ke tukde, which is fresh, slivers of fresh ginger. And I was going ooh, ah, and all that through the meal. And Suruchi, being so thoughtful, packed a bottle of both each to me to carry away. And I've written in the book, like in many other companies, maybe the parting gift would be an expensive pen from that partner or something else. But only in Titan you would get hari mirch ka achar or adrak ke tukde in a bottle as a parting gift, which says a lot about that stakeholder relationship that Titan
Which
has.
also completes the circle on what Xerxes said to you. You don't leave family. It's only to family members where you give all these achars and all of that.
Very
too.
much.
You
You've really gone into the book, I can see. Yeah.
Well, just a parting thought. As you progress in your life going forward, Titan also progresses as a company. One, what should the succession planning for a company like Titan be for you? I mean, what is the ideal time when you announce your successor before you move out?
See, Titan has been fortunate right through to have a deep layer of leaders and managers in the company so that life simply goes on. Like Mr. Desai left, Bhaskar came. Many people retired around the time Bhaskar retired, actually, many of my compatriots in a sense. But many of us took over new roles. I think the same philosophy, pipeline, everything exists and it'll happen at the right time, just like it has happened in the past.
And the plan is all in place, right?
The plan will evolve and it will just organically happen.
And what about you? What do you plan to do post-Titan?
I plan to do a lot of relaxation, a lot of spending time on things that I love to do outside of Titan, which is cooking and singing and running and cycling and all that. I've started cycling with my wife, so plan to do a lot of that as well. Travel with her to a lot of small towns and eat hari mirch ka achar.
Well, you did speak about running. I think it's a prerequisite for anyone in the Tata Group to have some running gene in them. And singing, obviously, everyone knows about it. You know, you sang Abhi Na Jao Chhodkar when we last spoke in the Integrity campus. And I think that was what a lot of people were thinking about you as well, Abhi Na Jao Chhodkar. But if you had to serenade us, there's a piano here. What is the song that you would like to sing?
Since we had already spoken about it in any case, maybe we will do Chaudhary Ka Chand.
All right, let's do this. And this one's a surprise for you because I did this with Bhaskar. I have to do this with you as well. It's Thank you, Venkat. Thank you so much.